music now I wanna can I ever refuse it? Pulsating, vibrating, reggae, reggae, reggae. Very sky, rock, steady, mental, a quadrillion, a cool.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. This is the Real Stuff Podcast. And today we have Dr. Claudette A. Anderson to speak to us about integrating, what's the integrating heritage?
Yes, in our daily lives.
Into our lives, okay. And she'll be talking to us, on this topic. And with us is Fofie, and also with us is Flavius, both co-hosts today. So back to you, Flavius.
Yes, Doc, could you start off by just telling our listeners and viewers a little about yourself, and what you do, and introduce the topic, please.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Maybe up to 500 years ago, we would start the morning with an Igbo prayer that says, Chukwu abịama tuanzu, Aniawu bochi tuanzu, Eke tuanzu, Orie tuanzu, Afo tuanzu, Nkwo tuanzu, Afianano bochinano, tuanzu, tuanzu, tuanzu. That is a prayer that will help us to integrate heritage into our daily lives. We're saying to the great spirit of wisdom and knowledge, be clean. To the sun and the day, be clean. To fire, be clean. To water, be clean. To air, be clean. To earth, be clean. To the 4 markets and the 4 days, be clean. And so we would have in the morning completed a salutation to the day, which is to ourselves, to clear our path as we go forth for whatever it is that we are to do. This is the original salutation that our African ancestors in various forms performed as a morning ritual. So I wanted to start there. I grew up in East Rural St. Andrew, the political division, little bit above UE, about 20 minutes up the hill out of UE. And went to Immaculate Conception High School, 3 buses, and then subsequently UE, and then I did my undergrad in English and linguistics and philosophy at UE, and then went to Emory in Atlanta to complete my Ph.D. in Ọbịa. I had a stint right after UE with the African-Caribbean Institute of Jamaica, where I worked on Mr. Siaga's genius project, the Jamaica Memory Bank. And I was to engage with the interviewees, re-engage with them. There were discrepancies or things that needed to be clarified in the interviews that were done. I would go out and see if these people were still alive and, chat with them again and clear up some issues. And this journey led me to realize that the European system of knowledge was really inadequate for us. Our elders, particularly in the rural areas, they had this confidence that the genesis of that confidence was not European knowledge. And I found this to be quite intriguing. And I said, I want to know what they know. What is it that makes them so effortlessly confident and happy and okay with being, right? We grew up with this Christian Eurocentric overlay of our lives, and we never really truly see the other side of our ancestry in a way that is positive and that moves us. And these one-to-one engagements really made me realize that we have something that we haven't tapped into. And this word kept coming up. You know, in Jamaica, this word comes up, mostly negative. And this word, you know, kept coming up, and you're asking people, what is this thing? And it turns out that it wasn't quite what you were hearing in the general populace. And so that led me on a journey to find out what this thing is. What is this thing that everybody talks about? Everybody is intrigued by it. They're afraid of it. They're not sure how to engage with it. It's hush hush. You can't talk about it. And yeah, that literally said that I wanted to know what my elders knew, which was no longer um, the gnosis, right, among the general population. And so we're talking about the end of the 20th century, right? And it's interesting that these 80, 90-year-old people who would have, you know, been born really, really the early part of the century still had a lot of what people are calling retention, still had a lot of their Africanness, but being separated from Kingston, and this is what they like to say, you know, oh, Miss Anderson, we're not going into Kingston. That's a bad place, bad place. We stay here, you know, we like the rural area. We talk to the trees, you know. We watch the moon, we get to watch the moon. And so you got really a deep sense of an other world right there in Jamaica, which was so different from what I knew in terms of gnosis and what I thought was important, right? Because our values are European values. And I found in Jamaica that the elders, that their values were different. And so, yeah, that's how I started on my journey of discovering what this Obeah was or is. And that led me really on a very, very long journey, a series of initiations where at the end of the day, I come to realize that our ancestors were just absolute geniuses, how far ahead they were in their thinking, that they were actually post-literate and not illiterate, and that they had a set of technologies that were demonized, hidden, driven underground by the trauma, and that's a euphemism even, by the trauma of European enslavement. And obviously initiation reconnects you with your ancestors, and they gave me kind of this charge to recover, to help recover some of the best things that we've lost. And what they gave me was the calendar. And so hence integrating heritage into our daily life. When we come to understand the importance of time as a cultural artifact and what we do with time, how we conceive of time, then our entire lives, I think, will be changed, and we will recover that rhythm that our ancestors had. When you change the way you view time, the way you access, the way you negotiate, the way you live, in it we live and move and have our being. it gives you a different conception and a different, just a different way of seeing the world, seeing a new heaven and a new earth in the Christian sense. And so I think that for us in this part of the world and also for the continent, because they did go there and strip us further, they tried to kill the root of the tree. But the joke is that the root is both above and below. And so we can always access it. So when I say Africana, we're talking still even about the continent. People are alien in their own lands on the continent. And then those of us who came over with this brutality and who have survived with our African ancestral DNA, we talk about the entire Caribbean as in need of reparation. And so what are we repairing? We're repairing ourselves first, and then we seek to see how, having repaired ourselves, we do so for our communities, because we've never not lived in community. And so, yeah, I wanna stop here for any questions. That's the basic background. Unụchi Foundation, which I founded and I'm the executive director, we say that we simply want African people to know themselves. So much has been lost. The big polysyllabic word is epistemicide, the killing of knowledge, that our knowledge systems have been virtually killed. We've been elided in any positive way from history. And when I say we, West Central Africa, everybody is about Ethiopia in the east, everybody is about Egypt in the north, but that's not where our ancestors came from. They came from West Central Africa, and we have not made a concerted effort to recover our immediate DNA. And so Unụchi Foundation is about knowledge reparation, and part of that is that we give you the most ancient calendar as a way of integrating or reintegrating oneself for those who want to choose Africa, because obviously we're all mixed. But for those who want to choose Africa, we have something. Our idea and our will and our work is not to proselytize. We don't really care in the Christian sense of converting people. What we're doing is making these systems available and accessible. So if you want to recover some of your West Central African ancestry, you can come to Unụchi Foundation and we will see what we can do to help you in that regard. This particular part of Africa has been particularly, singularly, specifically demonized. And there's always a reason why your enemy targets something. And when we begin to recover that, we will realize why it is that our ancestors' way of life has been the most criminalized and demonized on the African continent. And I will pause here for real now. Any questions?
Madam Fofe? Okay, a quick question though, because I noticed this word Ọbịa is spelled in 2 or 3 different ways. Obia, the ones that we use in Jamaica, Obeah, and so and I think there's another spelling with Obiya or something like that. So I'm just trying to figure out why the differences with these spelling and meaning, because like we know that the Obeah is from our European way of speaking English, but I am intrigued about the Obiya and the spiritual practice of this particular Ọbịa.
Okay. So this is Igbo-centric, right? One of the first records, one of the earliest records of the word comes out of Barbados, and the reference says that only Africans who are brought in from Africa can do this obeah, and chiefly those brought from the Calabar coast. So we know that Igbos came in droves. They came in early, and the word is associated with them in its early renderings by the evil others. And so in my research, I found one Professor John Ume, who is an Obeah man, or in strict Igbo language, Obeah, which means a traveling healer. He has a PhD, he's a prolific writer, and in his book, After God is Dibia, Dibia being an expert in knowledge and wisdom who travels to heal, right? After God is Dibia, Volume 1, he makes the point that the Igbo Dibia established themselves in Jamaica and the Caribbean as Obeah. So the word means simply a traveling doctor, right? These were the meanings for our ancestors before somebody else wrote it down and defined it in European terms. So OBIA speaks to a tradition of knowledge and wisdom. So I started off with Chiuku Abiyama, the Great Spirit. Within the Igbo culture, God is conceived of as a spirit of wisdom and knowledge. Not a man, not a woman, not a frog, not a baby. A spirit, the energy of knowledge and wisdom is deified within Igbo culture. And so when we say Bia and Dibia, basically, what are we doing on earth? We're coming and going. You know that story with Job. Where have you been? And the devil is like walking up and down, checking things out. That's all we really do. We're coming from somewhere or we're going somewhere. And this is basic fundamental human science. And in that coming and that going, we have experiences. The Dibia, the expert in wisdom and knowledge, is one who is an expert in the comings and goings in our earth sphere. Bia means to come, implicitly meaning to go. That's what the word means. And so in that particular West African tradition, if you are an expert in coming and going, right, it means that you really have knowledge of our entire universe, because that's all we're doing. And so when we say coming and going, we're talking about the planets, we're talking about the plants, we're talking about everything within our particular sphere of existence. What do we say? Constrained as we are by our physicality. And so when I talk about time, right, and the calendar, these early quote unquote astrologers would have been people who studied the elements, the skies, and knew about celestial movements as well as movements on the earth. So this is what I mean by coming and going. So right now, the sun just left Aquarius and went into Pisces. That is something an expert in knowledge and wisdom would know, and so would be able to, from the knowledge gleaned from all the other Dibias before, to understand that when the sun moves out of Aquarius into Pisces, we're approaching what we call the equinox, and that there are particular activities, movements, energies that occur around the equinox. And so you would be able to plan your life around that and that is in rhythm with the movement of the planets, the movement of one, the earth. That also speaks to the knowledge of the four forces of the universe, or what we call four elements. When you say elements, it doesn't give you quite the right vibe if you're an African, but if you say the four forces, right? This expert in knowledge and wisdom would know what was happening with the fire energy, what was happening with the air energy, what was happening with water, what was happening with earth. They had access to these forces. And so this access gives them the ability to manipulate. So hence the rainmaker, hence the person who is able to fix bones, the ability to channel those forces to heal people, right? You need food, there's a drought. You heal people if you make it rain. You're able to channel the energy, the solar energy. Somebody's bone is broken, you touch them, and you're able to fuse it together. This is ancient wisdom. This is a particular knowledge system, a particular matrix. When we draw the astrological chart, you see that there are four arcs. So this is why the Obeah woman or the Obeah man is a four-eye man. You're able to see east, west, north, and south, four cardinal directions. That's all there is to know if you're human. The weatherman is a Obeah man. He can give you a forecast. He's going to tell you if it's going to rain, how hot it's going to be, if you're going to have a tornado, if there's wind, right? Or if you're going to have an earthquake. It's a particular form of accesses the happenings in the universe. And so this is our ancient ancestral knowledge. This is our ancient ancestral heritage. This is our ancient ancestral memory that we have lost, that is no longer taught much, and that has been put into the realm of the quote-unquote supernatural. When the weatherman is reading the weather, we don't think of it as supernatural. It's just science. So hence the Obeah man is a science man. He's the original scientist, right? These are some of, the kind of primal basic associations with Obeah. Now, since you asked specifically about Obeah, I need to make this point that within the Igboan system and other West Central African systems, there are these four forces. Notice the word is spelled with four letters. At the basic level, it has four different tones that gives you four different meanings. So Obeah, the A being this, right? So Obi is mind, Obi is heart, Obi is house. So when our ancestors were back there talking about Obeah, it was nothing to do with what we have come to learn through the literization and criminalization by Europeans. I also need to say that within the Igbo culture, also other West Central African cultures, there are four types, four basic types, obviously, because there are four forces. So there would be four ways of knowing. So the four Noahs, right? This is the Noah's Ark. If you want to be phonetic, right? The four archangels, Michael, right, with the sword is air, and Raphael represents the sun. If we use our words for it, we're devil worshiping, but in some other people's tradition, it's quite fine to call upon these energies. Now, the fire energy, the energy which is given to fire in the East, is the specialization of divination. So that is the, let us just say Obeah man, because it's really Obeah, but we put the English on it. So if we say Raphael or fire, you're talking about knowledge of divination, which is the highest point you can go in scientific knowledge. That is also the realm that has everything in it, right? So if you're able to divine, it means you would know how to do sacrifice, right? You would know how to deflect negativity. You would know herbs. So the fire in the East, which is called Eke, which is the serpent, and this is why you will hear people talk about the serpent, the Obeah man and him stick with the serpent, and of course in the Old Testament, the battle between Pharaoh and others. The serpent is often associated with African tradition and knowledge because the serpent is primal. It's the only energy that we have on earth that is limbless, that can take any form in terms of characters that we write with or draw with. The Yorubas say, but for its head, the serpent would be a belt, right? This notion of the head and knowledge. This notion also of the zodiac, what we have come to know as the zodiac. By the way, the original term is azodiaca, which is an Igbo word. But when you do the etymology, they're going to stop at the Greeks and the Latins because, again, they've elided us out of any kind of positive system of knowledge. The zodiac is conceived of as a serpent swallowing its tail. And that ring that you wear when you get married, where the diamond is, that's where it connects. And that's where Ophiuchus, which is the sign of the Dibia, which became the sign of the Messiah, as the energy and the knowledge went out of Africa, out of West Central Africa, up into North Africa, and to the Greeks and Romans. Then it becomes this Christ. But what is a Christ? Who is a Christ? It's the Messiah, somebody who's been anointed with knowledge. This is the original Dibia. This is Eshu, right? So you have Jesus. People are not going to tell you that Su is Igbo, and it means, it refers to writing, it refers to knowledge. So the Osu in Igbo land, before the evil others came, had a particular role. They were a priest class. We have Eshu in Yoruba. We have Ekwensu in Igbo. And so this Jesus that has come to us through the evil others really has its foundation in Africa as the root of all humanity. We don't need to and turn this energy, this bleeding energy across, this very frightful, terrifying energy to make it black. If we want to do that, we should just go straight to what was done to our own Dibias during the time of slavery. If you want to know who died for you, it wouldn't be that energy. That's actually the energy that crucified our own Dibias. So when I talk about reclamation and reparation, these are some of the these are really basic things that I'm saying. I'm not saying anything astronomical that you need a PhD in ancient times to know. This was just part and parcel of the life that our people were living before the evil others came. And so 4 types of Dibias, because there are 4 basic types of knowledge. There are 4 forces. So we have the fire energy, Eke, then the water is Orie. So we talk about stream of consciousness. Orie is in the north, which is where they said the energy climbs down, the God energy, God force comes down. And so you see in Jamaica or elsewhere in the world, this business of the center pole and people dancing around it. That's where the energy comes down. That water energy, that Dibia is the Dibia who would be concerned with performing sacrifices. This notion of a life for a life. This is why we eat the bones of animals and we don't pretend that we don't kill them, that we're not exchanging energies. African cultures are very, very certain about how life obtains on earth. We eat, we get eaten in different ways. What we are, what we eat, that energy comes into us. This is why we choose certain things to eat or not to eat. This is why we sacrifice certain animals, again, because we know what type of energy that entity is and how we can negotiate with it for a balanced life. Then you get to the west side. No, let me leave that for last. Then we come down. So Eke, Ore, and then Afo is south, which is the earth, which is basic. And this is the herbs. So if you go to the herb man in Jamaica, you call him Obeah man in vex, because we've lost that knowledge that this is basic herbalism, medicine. People don't know that what we're calling modern medicine, a lot of our enslaved ancestors sold those secrets to Europeans for their freedom, which was then turned into what we know now. We're again excluded. We haven't done anything. We just stupid. We just a boiled bush, right? Again, the eliding of our culture from anything positive. And so the herbalist is down there at the south, and we could not imagine living a balanced life, being snatched from a balanced life and being brought into misery. Secondly, misery, pure misery. There is no absolute, no space. These evil others made sure there was no space. We had to manufacture the goodness in that space. We don't have any doctors. We're being raped and beaten every day. A pregnant woman is being put in the ground and being beaten on her back. 7-year-old children are being raped and beaten. Everything that we knew has disappeared, and we have to find a way to live. And it was this herbal knowledge that saved us. And then we became independent, and our ancestral energy, again, is demonized in our own country. The very thing that kept us for these hundreds of years is bush medicine, that a foolishness. While elsewhere, other people are engaging with it in a positive way. I know that there are a lot of us in Jamaica who do subscribe to our herbal medicine and use it. But by and large, again, there's been no effort to incorporate this ancestral knowledge into the biomedical practice. I mean, shouldn't it be then really that since we kept ourselves alive by our own medicine, that they should be incorporating into ours, and that we decide what is good and what is not? But that is not, again, the case. So that is the herbalist. That's a particular specialization. You have to know which plant, you have to know what to say to the plant, to ask it to help you to heal this person. It's a whole science that has, again, we have not had access to since the evil others came. We haven't had access to it in a very positive way. Everything is being done under duress. And even after emancipation, because our culture was demonized and criminalized, people fear it. So those are the three, what I would call unequivocal aspects of Dibia work. Now, you know that everything has its opposite. And this is why the Igbos conceive of life as a marketplace, as an exchange. This is our ancient ancestry, right? Obviously, the animals went in twosie. So if you have male, you must have female, you have above, you must have below. This is, again, basic knowledge. And so if you have east, there's west, north, south. So if north is water and south is earth, then the water falls on the earth, and that's a natural, most optimal relationship and exchange for balance. Fire needs air, air needs fire. Again, the most optimal exchange for balance. But when we get to the western side, this is the side that is called Nisi, the Dibia Nisi, the Dibia that is skilled in poisons. Now we're talking about the realm of air, so we're talking about the invisible. This western side of Dibia practice has been used to define the entire tradition because our people were in such constant misery. As Bob said, when you have to get some food, your brother have to be your enemy. And so we're fighting for food. We're fighting each other. We're fighting now to find favor with the evil others. All of this disproportionate violence committed upon us, this way of living that we never knew before, forced us, and they've written about it. They've said that they know that the conditions in which they had our ancestors were prone to bring out the worst in us. And so I formed the Unụchi Foundation to be able to say to people, do not accept being defined by the worst of you. This is not who you were. This was a deliberate act to bring out the worst in you. And it's equivocal because every man is going to defend himself. If a man lick you, go and lick him back. What is causing us to fight each other? We were living a stable, balanced life, and we were snatched away and brought into unprecedented violence so that we began to fight each other in ways we hadn't before. And then the very people who produced the situation and held it for as long as they could, then defined us by the monsters that they turned us into them. This unprecedented evil became us. The things that our ancestors were forced to do, that they had no clue could even exist. The things that they saw, the things that they endured. And we today come to accept that as defining us, when it was never us. This was something evil that was forced upon us. This was not our choice. And we had to negotiate it in ways that we never had to negotiate anything before, because this is unprecedented evil for our ancestors. And so this is important for people to understand, that we need to stop defining ourselves in ways that other people define us negatively. And we need to recover the good, the ideals that were in our community before our ancestors were snatched and turned into rapists and murderers and thieves. I want to make a point about tribalism and the pre-larceny, this business of powder and all of this. Imagine Massa give you a little piece of land over there, so, and maybe your banana never come, but your neighbor planting come and you're hungry. You gone over there, gone see what you can do. And your neighbor said, "Man, somebody keep thieving my planting because I'm hungry too and I'm try." This is basic living, where you're perpetually hungry and you're trying to find a way. And the creation of lack, this is a very important point. You're living in balance on a continent where you have everything, your space, and you're brought into a situation of starve. You're being starved. There's lack. And you're trying to fulfill that lack. And then they're telling you that you're bad for wanting to eat and that you shouldn't steal this. But they have deliberately created a situation of lack to bring out the worst in you. And so this business of Obeah men and the land is very important because the word Obeah is also linked to Obiala, an expert in knowledge of the land. Allah is land, right? And so imagine what our people would have needed. So you sprinkle a little powder here to deter your neighbor. So when we walk in Jamaica and somebody says, see that powder there or see that thing there, this is coming from way back when we were forced to be stealing from each other because we were deprived of food. And I'm going to stop here. I don't know if you have any more questions specifically on what I've said.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
You talked earlier, and this is, let me just say, this is just so fantastic. This is just so, love how with the clarity with which you have brought all of this knowledge. But here's my question. You spoke earlier of how you were given this charge to do with time. A calendar?
Mm-hmm.
Calendar is a tool, yeah, a part of a methodology that has to do with time. How do you see us using this time as a portal to understand all of what you have just said and the 90% more that you haven't said? How do we see time engaging with a calendar, engaging with any kind of measurement of time? How do we see looking through that portal as something that can take us back into that kind of higher consciousness, ancient wisdom that you're here sharing?
Whoa, okay. So at the most basic level, we recover some of our language, right? So we're not saying Archangel Raphael anymore. We're saying Eke. This is the primal word. This is the word our ancestors would have used. So we're already connecting and engaging with them through the use of the language itself. And then we're also doing the same thing that they would have done in marking time. So time is not Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Time is a force. Time is a force field. This day belongs to fire. Today is the 20th day of the 13th month, which is the month of Agbara, the month of the Dibia. And it's Ode, it's water day. So what our ancestors would have done on this day is what we will learn to do. You can go to the river if you're not near a river. You can take a glass of water and you can bless it. You can take a glass of water and do the same thing I did at the beginning. It covers everything. If you say that prayer, you don't need to do anything else for the rest of the day because you have covered your entire universe. This is the original gathering. Talk about Obeah gathering. This prayer is your original gathering because what it does, you're saying, be clean. So your energy for that day, whatever you do, is already been taken care of. You don't need to say grace. People cursing out people in the restaurant, you must pray before your food. No. You get up in the morning and you clear the entire day. And also in saying this prayer, you clear the entire year, you clear your life. Imagine you're repeating this every day because, of course, also the day has 4 parts. The morning is fire, right? Because that's sunrise, right? So you learn about the 4 forces within the day itself, and you use those primal words and you connect. You pay attention to the energy of the day and you use it to see how it maintains your balance. Remember, we're not starting from a position of imbalance. We were not born in sin and shaped in no iniquity. I guess that's some other people, but that's not us. We are Madu. The Igbo word for a human being is Madu, a thing of beauty. you start out knowing that you're beautiful and you live in a balanced life. So you tune into the rhythm of the four. This is the best 4x4x5, not Jeep, right? The rhythm of the four. Eke, ori, afo, unko, eke, ori, afo, unko, eke, ori, afo, into infinity. West Central Africans will tell you this is from time immemorial. This is ancient of days. When we started counting, when the universe developed and Earth was spawned and our consciousness divided it into four, this is what we've been doing from then. So when you adopt this Gregorian slavery calendar, you know absolutely no consciousness of the rhythm of the universe. In the Igbo calendar system, this is also the Yoruba and Beni people, right? For you're tuning into the elements, you're paying attention to the moon phases, so you know what's affecting you. You're paying attention to the solar energies, you know what's affecting you. And those are the two basic things, right? So the sun rises and it falls, and those are two basic things. You don't need rocket science to do that. The Dibia will go to higher levels, but the average person in those societies know that today's Eke Day, you don't do this on Eke Day. Today's Ori Day, you don't do this on Ori. There are days which are good for travel, for example. There are days when you shouldn't travel, days when you can copulate, days when you can't. And within each community, they have this foundation, and then their particular environment dictates what's layered on top of it. So what I'm saying, Okomfo-Fofe, is what we have is the foundation. We're going back to the foundation. And if people begin to use this calendar, they are in effect integrating the heritage that has been denied them, that they don't even know exists. They're beginning now. It's accessible to them. We're making it accessible, and they can integrate it. And they know will no longer need to accord to Jesus something that their ancestors, help them with. Thank you, Jesus, for so and so. No, you don't need that. You can just say, this was my great grandfather. This was so and so dream me. This one come, that one come. We gradually recover even the phantom of our ancestry and not having to use an imported one that was forced down our throats. I don't know if that sufficiently answers your question. We have
Yes, it does.
words, we have language, we have cosmology, we have metaphysics. This is the architecture of knowledge, and we can access anything. Yes, if we, yeah.
Yes. But just a comment that Jamaicans already wonderfully integrating them culture, our heritage in our daily life, if we go out on the street today and ask how much people, if them dream and who them dream, how much of them will tell us them granduncle and them auntie so and this one give them lot of number, and this one tell them so they must go do this, and this so how much more Jamaican Caribbean people, how much more do we need to be doing to integrate our heritage in our, because we're already doing some of it. We don't call it that. We don't call it that. Of course, it's not that. It has nothing to do with that. And as a matter of fact, some people tell you, is the devil take the form of your relatives and come into your dream? No, I don't know who give the devil that kind of permissions, but we are doing very naturally and very normally quite a bit of integrating heritage in our daily lives. We don't claim it. We don't, as a matter of fact, sometimes we ourselves will demonize it. Well, we're not doing, but it doesn't negate it. It doesn't mean it's not happening. You see the men open a buckle and them tip some to the ground. And the women too, not just them. Anybody taking a drink, tips them to the ground. No house can be like Jamaica and in many of the other Caribbean spaces without something offer a sacrifice. Okay? You could be Christian from now till be Jesus come. Something have to happen, something have to offer. So aren't we, and I think this is a wonderful thing that we already have some knowing that we already are doing some of that, although we're not putting conscious knowing around it. And we're not claiming it. But the fact is, we do already have started a foundation on which to build this daily life practice in awareness and with consciousness that these are practices of our ancestors that come through us over the same idea of time that we're talking about. These things have transcended any kind of particular space. They've come through this vast energy, this vast spirit of time, and it's still available to us. And so, yes, I'm taking the point you're making about, all of that, going back to that and bringing that present in our consciousness, because some of it, a little of it is already present in our daily actions all through the Caribbean. You see people engaging in some certain things, cooking some particular foods, cook food without salt. Everybody know that when you cook for spirit, you don't put no salt in there. Caribbean wide. And so I think what we're doing is really, it's almost like we're walking like different beings in the one body, because this part of us, the natural, normal aspect of us accepts and just does. And then we start questioning it now, we start put religion into it, we start put this into it, we start put sociology and all the ologies into it. We say, but what am I doing? No, that is not, that's demonic, and that's necromancy, and all kind of words, and that's Obeah, words which have been suggested to us. We don't have no context. The Obeah that you're talking about don't spell nowhere like the British way, because you're talking about a concept, a structure, a way of life from a different aspect. From our aspect, from an African perspective. So when we do this and allow others to define us, even when we know, even when every night we're going, we dream, even when the spirit I tell we say, and we just feel that we must do this.
Yeah, spirit take, the spirit take.
Yes, the spirit not take that one day. When we think about, and I like that you bring some Christianity to this, because it gives me some permission. We go to the creation story in the Genesis, we talk about in the beginning was the Word, and the Word, by the Word, all of this creation happens. And yet we go to physics class in high school and we don't see the correlation. Energy, frequency, vibration, sound. Nobody connects that for us or leads us in a way that we can connect it for ourselves. That always happening there is physics at its best. And that's what creation is. Using sound, manipulating energy. And as Dibia, that's what we do as a comfort, that's what we do as human beings, that's what we do.
And so when it's a reconception, right? What if the little herbalist on the roadside start calling himself Dibia Ogu? It's not an English word.
Yes.
Dibia Ogu. That's a whole different consciousness than the word herbalist or herb-man.
Because all of these things carry different vibrations.
Yes.
That's why people speak different languages. Some languages are languages that put you into higher consciousness. Some of them put you lower. The English language is a very, very low vibrational language, I will say. Very, very low vibrational. If you look at some of the words in that language, they're not designed to lift anybody up. They're not designed to elevate our consciousness. They confuse, they denigrate. But that's a story for another time. You are in your work here, in the process of your work, introducing to us various modalities, various devices, various ways of understanding this idea of time and using that time as a portal, as I said, to understand a broader level of knowledge, take us into an awareness and understanding where we can actually work on identifying ourselves more correctly, more properly, in terms of what our divine natural ancestor and ancestry brings to us. You are having an event coming up where you're talking about launching a calendar and a watch. Can you share some more of that with us?
Certainly. So obviously, our genius ancestors knew about the equinoxes. So the year starts at either the March or the autumn equinox, depending on where you are in the world. So the spring equinox this year is Gregorian March 20. We are having an event at the Institute of Jamaica Lecture Hall. We have an app for people to integrate into their lives. Everybody has their phone, right? And they're always on their phone. You want to know what day it is? You have an app that's with you all the time that you can access. We have a beta version, I think it's called a simple version, which we will upgrade as time goes by based on people, some ideas we already have and people's feedback, so that the app will be available. Free version, there's a free version, and then we ask you to upgrade if you want to leave more voice notes. You can leave you can do voice notes by voice or written notes. That's so, for example, integrating heritage, you begin to track what's happening on Eke Day, which is Fire Day, because you can now use the app to see what your birthday is. Now, isn't it wonderful to have a birthday every 5 days? So if you're a child of fire, then you have a birthday. So you say, my birthday is Eke Day. Let me track to see what happens to me on Eke Day. Let me note if positive things happen, negative, if there's a certain person who shows up, etc., etc. So you begin to make notes now. You're integrating yourself and you're paying attention to the energies. And so the app allows you to make notes. If you want to make lots of notes, then you upgrade. But if not, you can use the free version and of course make the note in another place. So we have an app. We partner with Ordinala Institute out of France. This is an Igbo foundation that does what we call Ordinala, which is the Igbo traditional way of life, which means what is in the land, right? Again, experts in how to live on earth. And they have language classes, they teach metaphysics, cosmology. I encourage people to go to their website, odinala.com, ODINAALA. I think it's .com or .org, and you will see their offerings there. They're also working on a calendar. They have a calendar which, whilst ours start in March, there's thought in autumn because obviously different time zones on the continent. And they've brought out a watch, Oge Igbo, which means Igbo time. And we are distributors for the watch, promoters for the watch. It is a different watch. It goes counterclockwise, which is what we call Igbo clockwise, which is the direction that we're actually spinning in. It's downward oriented, pyramidal structure, because the pyramid is very important to our consciousness and to traditional cultures. And so you can access the watch at Ordinala Institute or through us. We charge a little bit more over here for it. I believe it's around 170 euros of their website, and we will be selling it for 250 US for people who are interested. We will have a few of them at the launch, but people can order online and receive it subsequently. And then we have a printed calendar. We have poster, and we also have the wall hanging form, the spiral form, where, yeah, can look at 13 months of 28 days. This is another thing that was taken away from us. The year is actually 13 moons and not 12. And we revert to that ancient energy of according the year 13 months. 28 days from new moon to new moon, average, right? Basic. And so, like the Tainos, who were the original inhabitants of the island that we called our home, this was the calendar they would have used. But they would have flipped it in the other direction of the similar 4 weeks of 7 days, while we have 4 days, 7 weeks. It's the same 28 days. One is vertical. Ours is vertical because we conceive of time. In Jamaica, we said time longer than rope. And this notion of length as opposed to space, right? So time and space. Space we can conceive of. It's very interesting. We're constrained by our consciousness and our physicality. So space we conceive of vertically and space we conceive of horizontally and time we conceive of vertically. And so these 4 days, which we call market days, these 4 days that we exchange, we're exchanging energies with each other. They're conceived of as 4 long baskets. And because, again, it's a trade, you take your basket to the market. So I take my basket to you today. What is in my basket? I have some knowledge of Obeah, and I'm trading with you in order to enlighten people. It's as simple as that. And so we have a printed calendar with the 4 market days, 13 months, each month of 28 days. And that takes you obviously back to the next March equinox. So we have printed calendar, we have app, and we have watch. And we're going to launch this the March at the equinox, which is in
That's March 20th.
20th of March, Gregorian.
This month of March 20th at the Institute of Jamaica.
Yes.
Excellent. What do you hope? How do you hope? Wrong word. How are you praying that people will connect with this idea of a whole culture seen through the portal of time?
Well, I'm Igbo, I don't pray. We don't pray.
That's correct. But how do you affirm, which is what we all do too, but we all get away with using the language that other people understand.
Yes.
Same thing when they say pray, them say Ọbịa. We don't know not about none of them there. But over time, we not walk and I use the word them.
Well, we're that to which we pray.
But we're reclaiming. We're reclaiming.
And so basically what they've done is because of this creation of lack, then we end up, prayer becomes begging, which is anathema to traditional life. You don't need to beg for anything.
That's correct.
Everything is there for you to access.
I didn't create you for you to beg.
Right.
But as you said earlier, we've walked out of that mindset, that psyche of abundance.
Yes. Because we were deprived of so much by the evil others. This deliberate creation of lack to turn us into beggars. And people don't notice, these very evil people wrote that they walked through the length and breadth of Africa and did not see one beggar and one homeless.
That's correct. And the word unemployment doesn't exist in any of those languages.
Look at the continent now. Not one beggar. They were shocked. Now, these are people, the only people I think, to the extent that we can talk about ethnicity, who came to have a dark age. Nobody else has a dark age but them. So I imagine that they would have been quite shocked to see people living in balance, not being homeless and not being hungry. Nobody's begging. Everybody's chill. Everybody's cool. Everybody
occupied.
And
doing something useful.
some people would say in jealousy they chose to destroy it because they didn't have it. And what they wanted is what we have. What we had, that's what they wanted. But what we had was not, we didn't arrive there through violence. That's what they didn't understand. We didn't arrive there through the violence that they used to try and recreate that could never be. People's souls are crying. People are all about the physical, the material. But that other part of them, which is the real part, again, is lacking. So I'm going to use hope. My hope is that the word reaches to the people who want to engage. We're not proselytizing. If Jesus works very well for you, please. I am not anti-you. You're sovereign. I am asking people to leave us alone to practice our ancestral religion. Even leave you alone to practice whatever you desire. I want the people who have been hungry for something to hold on to, something positive. The people who want a positive recovery of their ancestry, that the word reaches them and they're able to access and use what the Unụchi Foundation has made available. For those who need it, for those who have ears, I know it's not for everybody. People, we've been raped by many. People want to claim a particular aspect of their ancestry over another. People are sovereign. Those of us who want to claim our Africanness positively, leave us alone to do that. This is my hope, that the word reaches the people who want it, that the people who hear it can pass it on. They know somebody who wants it, wants to recover that balance. It's not available. They have made sure that we almost never recover our language. I've lost my language. I can't speak Igbo. I know a few phrases, and when I meet my brothers and I go Jishika, they laugh. And then they said, I said, no, I only know a couple words. I cry. But I now have the architecture of human existence through this calendar. It's a matrix. It has everything in it. And we will be offering courses through the Unụchi Foundation for people who want to access the higher elements of the calendar. We've just given you the basic elements. People are talking about matrix. This calendar has any knowledge that we conceive of as human knowledge. Anything that can be known through these 13 months of 28 days. There is nothing. I know it sounds fantastic. There is nothing that you want to know that if you channel properly into this calendar, which is also a matrix, which is the foundation of the modern computer. Yes, it sounds fantastic. We have been elided out of history. This is the foundation of the modern computer, this calendar. And so if you access the computer for knowledge, then you go to the organic source, which is your very life, which you have been deprived of. And so somebody dream last night and them get a word and them wake up, them don't know the word mean. Come to Unụchi and let us see if we can help you understand what the word means. You dream said the snake come and talk to you, and the Bible tells you that the snake bad, but you don't really feel it bad. You can come to Unụchi and we'll try and help you process that dream and see what the snake's saying to you. We don't use like the word snake, we prefer serpent or python. These ancient things other people are using. I come to America to find more white people practicing voodoo than black people. These things are fantastic. Other people who are interested in esotericism, who are not of a particular hue, are accessing the knowledge more than we, to whom it belongs. These things must change. Those of us who want to recover, we're doing our best to make the information available and accessible. This is the easiest way to retool and retune yourself to your reconnect, repair your African ancestry, West Central African ancestry. Yes?
Yes.
Thanks. And the two gentlemen, I haven't heard.
Yeah, well, I'm coming to you right now because, like I know in all religions there's some form of mysticism, and even in the friendly societies, why so much attention to Obeah? Can you explain that? Because, like, all right, the Jewish people, and I know that there are many Jewish people all over the world, and in Jamaica, they have the Kabbalah. You have people who are in these friendly societies, and all who see that the laws of Jamaica pay so much attention to Obeah and not to these people and these things. Why? I don't know if you have an explanation, but
I know you know why. Why? It's because it's ours. It's black. This quote unquote Obeah. These evil others claim it was fraud and we were duping. It's very interesting, you know. Why are they so concerned about our people being duped, as they call it? What are our people being duped into? Into fighting for their freedom. And the Obeah man is a fraud because I'm telling people that they can actually achieve their freedom if they tap into their ancestral energy. So you're going to allow your particular esoteric system to flourish while you criminalize, demonize, and denigrate those that would stop you from your consummate greed. Because what happens? They call the Rastaman's body, I'm trying to remember this article, unproductive bodies. Our Obeah practitioner's body is an unproductive body for the slaveocracy. The Rastaman's body was an unproductive body for the colonial authorities. We're not using our body to make no money for you no more. We done. So anything that threatens their consummate greed, anything that threatens their ability to make money will be
And satisfy that greed.
Will be criminalized and demonized because the things set up for money. They didn't snatch us and bring us over here to feed us and make us grow. It was to feed themselves and to make their pocket grow. We were just a means to an end and quite disposable, as the history has shown us, right? When are we going to stand up and say, you know what? You know who died for my life? The Obeah practitioners who were quartered and drawn, and these people wrote off the evil they did. You attach a horse to the four limbs and you say, hee-ho. And this is the God of these people that you think is benevolent and merciful. What kind of God that? What kind of God make you put a pregnant woman in there and beat her up on her back? What kind of God make you rape 4-year-old and 7-year-old? What kind of God that? Obeah men came, they guided the people the best they could within the society, and some of them allowed themselves to pay the ultimate price. Charlatans developed because the thing is driven underground, and you're in a situation where you know say your neighbor afraid and she going to need something, and you did remember something for them kidnap you, so that the herb they use and that one look like it, and you declare yourself Obeah man, but you're not. And so what happened to the desacral, these people confessed to the desacralization of African way of life. They have not apologized for it. They admit to it, that they know that what they're doing is evil. And they know that what they're doing will cause people to fight and fuss and kill each other. They have not apologized because it benefited them, and it still benefits them when we continue to fight amongst ourselves and when we continue to hate ourselves. So that is the reason. Everybody else can practice theirs, but ours no, because ours is the most powerful. What we can do if we got ourselves together would shock people. But the divide and conquer, successful a million times over. The epistemicide, me not black, yeah, people are Jamaica, them not black, and there was no slavery. How can you develop an education system that does not include the facts of the very island? You claim you're doing reparation, this, and you're running after money. What you going to do with it? The people are starving for knowledge, for self-knowledge that will help them to regain their love of self. You cannot love yourself. You cannot love somebody else if you don't love yourself. We've been taught to hate ourselves.
And each other.
And subsequently each other. Because you're born in sin and shaped in iniquity, and some little skinny man bleeding on a cross, one of the most violent images in any quote-unquote religious system. And we embrace it and think it look good and then wonder why we're so violent. That's the people them that are for them, God. We don't have nobody on no cross bleeding. Why somebody need to be on a cross bleeding? And why we need to show that to children and tell them that that is their way to salvation? Do you know what that does to the psyche? Imagine being born in a society that says you're Matu. And there's a spiritualist or whatever you want to call him. I mean, there's a dibia. And then the mother is in there. And then you come out and everybody welcomes you. And you're so precious. And then they look at your energy and then they name you. And you're not named, you don't have no surname. They name you for the energy that you are. That begins with the day that you come in on. And then your grandmother down there so have another little name for you because she see another little energy. And you're welcome. And you're beautiful. You're not born in a sin and shape in an iniquity, and you don't have this image, this violent image put in front of you. First of all, you don't need to be saved because there's nothing to be saved from, because you have everything you need. You have yourself, your self-knowledge, and you have your community. And that's really all you need. Again, China Eke, which is the name, one of the names of God, the self and the community. Imagine, this is a different conception of God, you know. God as self and community. Why would you hurt anybody? This is why those societies were balanced societies. God wasn't a man. God wasn't a woman. God was wisdom and knowledge. God was yourself and the community. Those are the concepts that helps one to live in concert with the rhythm of this planet on which we live. It's a totally different way of life. You're not jealous of your neighbor, and your mother not gonna tell you, why you can't be like your brother? Why you can't be like Miss Matty Data over there, sir? Why you must be like Miss Matty Data? Miss Matty Data, Miss Matty Data. With this comparison, when you come out in traditional society, you know who you are. The Dibia is there. He's done divination for you already. Your parents know who you are. You know who you are. You have a part in the society. This is why Native America, he who walks with wolves, you're named for your very self. These names that we have, where them come from? Some evil other. We have the names of people who committed abominations upon our ancestors, and we expect that it's going to be well for us. Cannot be. You have to understand energies. So this is my response to that. Thank you.
Yeah, Flavius.
I'm here, still
Okay.
here, listening. Lots and lots to learn. But
Flavius didn't know it was that bad, eh? So much to learn.
yeah, but
So
as
much to
we,
learn.
you know,
And that's all about us as people.
as time is running down,
That's
because I
all
have
about us.
a burning question. I just think about time. When and who and why did the whole Obeah concept became a negative force?
When and how? Give me the three. Is the three W's?
Yeah,
Taki Rebellion 1760. Again, March, March, April, around the time of the equinox. The enslaved Africans decided this was time to burn the place down. And in many of the stories, you hear that it was, as the Americans say, some house Negro who alerted Massa, as if they could be master of anything. But these are the words we have inherited to the plot, and hence subsequently. So Taki Rebellion, 1760, when they rounded up the quote unquote rebels, they were told that they had a spiritual military advisor who was an Obeah man. And that was it. There was a threat to their life, their livelihood. They were about to lose the island to the enslaved Africans. And they decided that it was best to literize and demonize and criminalize an African way of life. The aspect, notice again why I say what has come down to us. What is the aspect that has come down to us? The warrior aspect, the West side, the sword side. This was war. This was military intelligence. Now, we had been gathering and managing, right? So 100 and odd years before Jesus showed up, we managed without him. And then they ignored our traditions and said, this foolish superstition. They call it a foolish superstition because they did not know or had not yet experienced that power within the plantation economy. Now remember, 1760 is about 21 or so years after the treaties. So they have their Maroon police force, and they basically have the island now, right? Because the Maroons have been subjugated and have agreed to be their police force. So they don't have anything to worry about because they have the Maroons. And so they're cruising with their daily rapes and beatings and horrible behavior. And then these, particularly Akan, right, warriors were brought in, and they decided that to hell with it. I'm not living like this. And so it was the Akan, what am I saying? The Akan ethnicity to which the Taki Rebellion of 1760 is attributed. And yet you notice the word Obeah is used because then by that time, through some organic means, we had agreed, our ancestors had agreed that this word was sufficient to describe the practices, I guess, in a kind of holistic way. So even though that Obeah man would have been, in essence, an Okomfo, he's an Obeah man, and then they subsequently criminalized whatever they're describing there. To date, there's no description of, there's no definition of Obeah. There's a description of feathers and something, but and they use the word fraud, and they call our gods devils, something devil, and
the law says it is equal, it is the
yes,
same as mile.
same as Mile. After emancipation, they didn't want us to gather because, of course, they also banned communal gatherings. And Mayal was said to be a religion, but then they realized that obviously it's the same people. And so they deemed Obeah and Mayal to be the same, which is in effect true. And so that is the history that we have inherited, because we have inherited the colonial view of ourselves. And we tend to believe the worst of us. When we say Obeah, we don't talk about the other three positive aspects. We talk about that one side, which can be equivocal, which is what was used against the very people who are defining it like that. They're defining it in military terms.
Yes.
Right?
And it's interesting that, Claudette, that you said we inherited it, but I would suggest that we also continue to nurture it. You know, that their view,
Yes.
their view of us. But not only have we inherited that, but we continue to nurture it. We all want to be. Okay.
Yes. And that's important for people to know. So Jamaica was the first place it was criminalized, and then, you know, it went throughout the rest of the Caribbean, because they realized, oh my God, we didn't realize these guys could do this. And it's very important. I'm going to say something that is more than interesting. It's the Maroons who caught Taki. So the people who were once free to practice their religion, but they're enslaved, right? They're on the plantation and they're being watched, etc. The Maroons are free, but they're the police force. It's Maroon, and so I put it this way: it's Maroon Obeah now versus plantation Obeah. And so the Maroons, with the backing of the British had to enlist the Maroons to stop the Taki rebellion. So it's Maroon Obeah. So the Maroons are free to practice their Obeah, you know? So when we're saying Obeah is criminalized, it wasn't criminalized for the Maroons. They were free to practice. It is on the plantations where we were suffering that it was outlawed. So it's not a carte blanche criminalization. It's just for the people who are enslaved. But Obeah was thriving in the Maroon communities, where you had the four basic.
But it's criminalized for everybody now.
But do you think then, if we even say that it's criminalized, because obviously now it's Jamaican, it's in emancipation, independence, anybody going into the Maroon communities to see what has happened to the Maroon communities after emancipation, right? It's criminalized for everybody now. So now, if we say the Maroons were free to practice, if it's criminalized for everybody now, what should be done is to see what obtained in those communities as opposed to what obtained, right, on the plantations. Is there a difference? Can the Maroons help us to understand aspects of our practice that we could no longer, use because we had to go underground and they were free to practice? This is a very, very important issue. Can we tap into Maroon ancestry and Maroon heritage to get a positive definition of obeah. Because the other thing is, in other Caribbean islands where there were no treaties signed, that word is a good word. It's a good word. It's not a bad word. Suriname, right? They have their obeah also. The obeah house, them say, is a
That's
house, the
correct.
word being house, right?
I didn't know
A
that.
very common thing for the Caribbean. There are places in the Caribbean where the word, still among our people who refused to be enslaved, who did not sign a treaty with the British, is a good word.
Yes. I remember that, Claudette, if I might share, a group of Surinamese people coming to Jamaica. One of the things they did was participate in their compound celebrations. And then they had various gatherings where, you know, others could go and interface with them. And I remember one of them telling the story, well, saying that one of the things that they had hoped for when they were coming to Jamaica is that they would have had a gathering of obeah men. Only to land in Jamaica and hear that this thing is a criminal offense. The man was totally astounded. He was totally confused. And he
Yeah.
said this in a gathering of many people that they were hoping when they come they would have had. Like, you know, like a conference, yeah. With the obeah
Obeah
men.
Conference. Wow.
Yes, it was illegal. And still is illegal. For them, that's something beautiful and something, you know, that they meet and talk about.
Yes.
It's positivity
That they're
around.
proud of. Yes. And so what would have
Flavius.
had the
ma'am.
Maroons not signed that treaty?
Well, that's an interesting thought. But I think there's a lot of ways that I have challenges tarrying with this word obeah, or B-E-A-H, because for me that have nothing to do with me. That's what somebody called me. So if somebody come on and call me dog, or say what I'm doing is dog, it should have nothing to do with me. I define myself. I define myself in consultation with God and my ancestors. I define who I am, and I frequently assess whether the things I do are helpful or not helpful, and make modifications or changes as necessary, if so. But this OBEAH, that's what somebody else chose to use, and that's for them. They must know what it means. I don't have no interest in finding out what it means, because it not to do with my life. It's not me. But Flavius, it look like you're going to have to make another appointment, because
Definitely.
there are many conversations happening here in many
just scratching the
conversations.
surface today, yeah.
Yes, it would seem.
Yeah, definitely.
And we've touched on so many things, it's almost unfair that we're not getting into some of these things, because
Yeah,
these
in a
are big
fulsome way.
conversations.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Big conversations.
Because there are a lot of misconceptions. People don't understand a lot of these things.
This is so.
Okay, I didn't know that obeah is good in some Caribbean spaces. I didn't know.
Yes, in Suriname, definitely, for sure, the Winter people and other Saramacco.
I must speak to some of them, some of the people that we interface with.
Because they know what, and they're not talking about OBEAH as the British, they're talking about what they know it to be.
Yeah.
It's healing, it's conflict resolution, it's all of the things, mechanisms and methodologies that we need to navigate a prosperous life, a life of abundance where we see ourselves as beauty, as Dr. Claudette said. It's how we maintain that Madhu that we are.
Oh, yeah.
Is knowing, you see, we talk about being created in the image and likeness of God, but a lot of people don't know that that is actionable. And those who know get criticized. God manipulates energy. Creation, everything is energy. They've taught us that part. Quantum physics, quantum everything tells you everything is energy.
Oh, yeah.
And God, from all of the energy that exists, which cannot be destroyed and cannot be created, shaped and formed a creation. When we then say we are created in the image and likeness of God, image and likeness, so we're not God, we're created in the image of likeness of God. So we might not be able to say, let there be light, a powerful high vibrational force, but like light. But is there something we can say, let there be, and it happen because we can manage that? If we're in the image and likeness, how do we think that we just sit down and be victims all the days of our lives when we were shaped in the image and likeness of a being who stood up and said, "Let there be light," and there was light.
Serious argument.
Yes. Well, we're going to have to do it again because I have to, I have
Yes.
to forward.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we too. Yes, yes. It has been a long session, which we, really love. Yeah, I mean, I was spellbound.
Now I need to get
Well,
out
we
and
respell
about
it.
as
That's
well.
good. I like that. We were respelling Obeah, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
good. That's our hashtag. We're respelling it. So I'm glad you were spellbound by proper spell,
Spelling. Yeah. Oh,
proper
definitely.
spelling.
Yeah. I didn't have a clue that you had more than one spelling.
Yeah. I like the fun on words right there.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Anyway, Dr. Anderson, I'm so happy to meet you and to have you in this, platform on the Real Stuff podcast, but sorry we have to go, and we'll definitely have a part 2.
Yeah, man. I'm available. Just let me know.
Wonderful.
Yes. All right. We say Jishiikeo in Igbo, which means basically an English, not direct translation, but an English rendering would be, "May the force be with you." Right?
Wonderful.
You
Thank
know,
you.
Star Wars,
Star
"May the
Wars.
force be with you," is ours originally, just so you know.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, there you go.
Them
It's
keep
all
everything.
know about
They keep
force.
everything they can get.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So Jishiikeo, I thank you.
You.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Claudette. It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Likewise.
It was a great
Thank you.
pleasure. So bye for now from the Real Stuff podcast.
You lead us to Fula. You belong far away away. Ajugwala Lebobu Seru. Leader Mua, leader Sungfula. Leader Mua, leader Sungfula.
Well, unfortunately, this is it. Till next time. Bless.
All you gotta do is just speak. One word is enough, and I'm no longer sorrow. I forget what I was trying to say. I no longer do what I was gonna do, but you're no good for me. That's why me do what set me a figure flee. Me I fi take away me say. Me I fi take away me say. Me I fi hide like a thief in the night. Me I fi get out the side. Me I fi take away myself. I fi take away myself. I have to utilize I wings. Shorty